All right.
Certainly, as the review of the security clearances, there is a working group
All right. Welcome to the
that goes
stream.
through all
I
of
have
the
my
security
video
clearance
here
process
muted.
that entails
I'm
those
actually still in the process of
aggressively
getting my
enforcement.
streaming stuff
In
set
terms of
back
the
up
pardon process,
right
I think the
now.
president has the
Um,
authority to carry out those decisions. He takes input and looks at them on a case by case basis.
I've actually got pretty far into Assassin's Creed, probably pretty close to the end.
There are a number of members on the National Security
So
Security
let me
Council
turn
who I
down
know
my
that the chief of staff is familiar
audio
with.
here. All right.
Can you speak up? I'm sorry.
And I'm also testing out the
The president has
Steam Labs app on
many
my
times
iPhone.
chosen to remain uninvolved in this
So I'll
process,
unmute
and that's where we are right now.
my video here and see how well it goes.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller, like revoking his security clearances?
I'm not aware of any conversation around that.
Sarah, is it an indication that the president sees himself as above the law?
Not at all. Raquel,
Hi, thank you, Sarah, very much. Some legal experts and lawmakers are saying the president is corrupt and that there are ground for an impeachment case. Is the White House concerned about that? That could have an effect in the elections, the midterm elections, and also, does the White House take these allegations seriously?
certainly we take allegations seriously. The idea of an impeachment is, frankly, a sad attempt by Democrats. It's the only message they seem to have going into the midterms, and I think it's another great reminder of why Americans should support other like-minded candidates like the president that are actually focused on continuing to grow the economy, continuing to secure our borders, continuing to focus on the safety and security of all Americans. I think that the biggest contrast you could possibly make is the message of the Democrats, which is nothing more than attacking the president and looking at cheap political stunts, while this White House and Republicans in the House and Senate are focused on actually doing good things for the American people.
Sarah.
Amen.
Thank you, Sarah. Earlier this week, the president had some tough words of criticism for Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman. Can you tell us when the last time the president and Powell met face-to-face, and whether or not the president brought up that criticism with Powell directly?
I believe the last time they met, I'd have to double check, was right around the time that Jerome Powell took his place on the Federal Reserve Board.
So has he spoken to him directly about his concerns about raising interest rates?
I'm not aware that they've spoken about that at all. One last question. Sorry, go ahead, Emma.
Thank you, Sarah. On Venezuela, is the president planning on getting involved there at all? There's millions fleeing the country now. What is the U.S. stance on Venezuela at this point?
The United States continues to support Venezuela's neighbors and provide emergency aid and shelter to Venezuela, and also continues to stand with the people of Venezuela. And we're going to keep all options on the table, and we'll keep you posted if we have any further announcements. Thank you so much, and we're going to wrap up here so that we can all join the president for the Medal of Honor ceremony. Thanks, guys. Neighbors and provide emergency aid and shelter to Venezuela, and also continues to stand with the people of Venezuela. And we're
Let us pray.
all options on the table, and we'll keep you posted.
Almighty God, we come before you
Thank you so much.
on this very special occasion from different backgrounds and cultures and expressions of faith toward you. But we all come as Americans and those who love her, those who have sacrificed for her, who have bled for her, and who have died for her. Today, as we gather in our nation's most sacred home, we have the privilege to witness, to celebrate, and to honor an extraordinary naval career and a life that has been set apart and called to service and devotion to this nation and those in it. Today, we are among the most privileged to watch as our nation's highest honor of special trust, achievement, and fidelity is both given and received from our nation's commander-in-chief to a leader of naval warriors whose opinion was sought, whose sacrifices were selfless, and whose dedication to duty is unparalleled by any standard. Today we lift up and honor our very own Master Chief, Britt Sablinski, as our nation's Medal of Honor is bestowed upon him. May he also take with him the absolute certainty in knowing that his day is given to this great nation, to our beloved Navy, and to the warriors of naval special warfare, who are of value beyond measure. We as his fellow Americans, brother and sister warriors, friends and family alike, collectively ask for your blessings upon our great president, this great naval warrior, these great military families, and all they do, have done, and will continue to do from this day forward. On this most solemn occasion, on this sacred ground, we as his teammates say well done. And finally, whether swimming the depths, climbing the highest of mountains, or soaring through the heavens, as we walk that lonely road of faith, may you always go with us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I have everything the well-appointed lady or gentleman needs right here. Don't be shy. Step closer, look, observe the
And thank you to Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan, Undersecretary of the Navy Thomas Modley, VA Secretary nominee, did a fantastic job for us, Robert Wilkie, and Congressman Scott Taylor and Brian Mast. Thank you for this very much. Thank you. Members of the Armed Forces and distinguished guests, please sit down. VA Secretary nominee, fantastic job for us.
Over here, ladies and gentlemen.
That actually worked out very nicely. And join me in officially welcoming Master Chief Britt Slabinski to the White House. Special man, a truly brave person. Today we pay tribute to Britt's heroic service, and we proudly present him with our nation's highest military honor, and I would go so far as to say our nation's highest honor. Joining Britt today is his son Bryce. Bryce, thank you very much. A rising senior at a wonderful school known to the world as Ohio State. Great place. It's a great school. Along with Britt's sisters, Brenda and Tika, and Brenda's husband, Tom. Thank you very much for being here. Here as well are Britt's significant other, Christina, and her two children, John and Megan, who we just met in the Oval Office. That's a special place, too. Thank you all for joining us for this really special day and special ceremony. Thank you very much. Finally, we're honored to be joined by several previous Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. Would you please stand? Would you please stand? Thank you. Very, very special people. Your names and your immortal acts of valor are forever engraved in the memory of our nation. Our nation will always be grateful to you, and you know that. Today, we induct a new name into the world's most exclusive gathering of heroes, and that's exactly what it is. Britt was raised in Northampton, Massachusetts. He became an Eagle Scout by the age of 14. His father was a veteran who served as a frogman in the underwater demolitions group of the U.S. Navy. It was a tough people. While Britt was in junior high, his dad brought him to their reunion. Britt was inspired by their bond of friendship, their stories of service, and their boundless love of country. As soon as he graduated from high school in 1988, Britt enlisted in the Navy to become a SEAL. That means he is a physically very strong person, and that also means he is a mentally very strong person. That's tough. Throughout the grueling months of training, Britt proved himself every single step of the way. In 1990, he graduated the legendary BUD/S training course, and he earned that special badge worn only by the bravest few, the SEAL Trident. In 2002, Britt was called to support Operation enduring freedom in Afghanistan. In the late evening hours of March 3rd that year, he led an elite team on a combat mission to establish a secure position on the peak of a 10,000-foot mountain known as Takur Ghar. Britt and his teammates were preparing to exit the helicopter onto the mountain when their aircraft was struck by a machine gun and machine gun fire like they've never seen before, and a rocket-propelled grenade from Al-Qaeda terrorists down below. Not a good feeling. As the helicopter lurched away from the assault, Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts was flung out of the aircraft. Tremendous, horrible thing to witness. And onto the side of the mountain before the helicopter crashed into the valley below. After surviving barely the violent crash, Britt and his team were retrieved by a second helicopter. Also, by the way, at this point, Britt received information suggesting their comrade, Neil Roberts, a man thrown out of the helicopter, was probably still alive. The team faced a choice to wait for reinforcements and pretty much safety, or to return immediately to the enemy stronghold in the hope of saving Neil's life. They would be outmanned, outgunned, and fighting uphill on a steep, icy mountain, and every soldier knows you don't want to fight uphill. They learned that at Gettysburg. You don't fight uphill. But they would face freezing temperatures and bitter winds at the highest altitude of battle in the history of the American military. This was the highest point that we ever fought. The odds were not good. They were not in their favor. But Britt and his team didn't even hesitate for a moment. They made their decision. For them, it was an easy one. They went back to that mountain. When their helicopter reached the mountain peak, they jumped out into a furious onslaught of machine gun fire like none of them had ever seen before. Britt and his teammate, Sergeant John Chapman, charged uphill toward the enemy, where John was shot after clearing a bunker. Britt continued to engage the enemy, repeatedly exposing himself to horrendous fire. Two of his other teammates, Stephen Turbo Tobas and Brett Morganti, both suffered very, very serious leg injuries. Britt helped them to safety and called in airstrikes as continuous fire drove them ever further down the face of the mountain. Got worse and worse, more and more dangerous. He kept going. In a treacherous descent, Britt and his men carried Turbo through the snow. At one point, they fashioned a makeshift harness out of their gun straps to hoist Turbo down a 13-foot cliff. In itself, treacherous, because if you miss that little area, they go down the mountain, and no stopping them. When they could go no further, Britt tended to the wounded and coordinated their escape until his team was finally evacuated from enemy territory. 7 of the brave men who fought with Britt are here with us today, and maybe they'll stand up as I call their name. Petty Officer, Second Class, Brett Morganti. Pretty dangerous place, huh? Way to go, Brett. Chief Warrant Officer, Kyle Soderberg. Thank you, Kyle. Petty Officer, Second Class, Stephen Tobas. Thanks, Steve. Chief Warrant Officer, Al Mack. Sergeant Christopher Cunningham. Master Sergeant Eric Stebner. a Master Chief Petty Officer, still on active duty, is quietly not with us today. I just want to thank you all. Unbelievable acts of bravery. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Incredible. Today, we also remember the brave soldiers who gave their lives on that mountain. Technical Sergeant John Chapman, Corporal Matthew Commons, Specialist Mark Anderson, Sergeant Bradley Cross, Senior Airman Jason Cunningham, Technical Sergeant Philip Spivak, and of course Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who met a horrible death, for whom these events are now known. It's called the Battle of Roberts Ridge. Incredible event. To the Gold Star family members of those heroes who are here today, please stand up. Please stand up. Please.
Quiet down, Mr. Linton. Hush now. I'm here to take you to the police.
It's an honor to have you accept our nation's profound sorrow and a deep love.
Sure,
and
if you just come with me
gratitude.
first.
These were incredible, incredible men. And you can be proud that they were in your family, and they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you. To Britt and to all of the men of Roberts Ridge, you waged a fierce fight against the enemy, and these really have become the enemies of America and the enemies of all civilization. Through your actions, you demonstrated that there is no love more pure and no courage more great than the love and courage that burns in our hearts. We are free because warriors like you are willing to give their sweat and their blood, and if they have to, their lives for our great nation. Britt, you went on to serve many more years in the U.S. Navy before finally retiring in 2014. Today he continues his life of serving by volunteering with the Navy SEAL Foundation and on behalf of Gold Star families, special, incredible families. And as one of his fellow service members testifies, he is an amazing father to Bryce, who, like his dad, is Britt wants the country to know that for him, the recognition he's about to receive is an honor that falls on the whole team. He wants you folks to know that. On the whole team. On every American warrior who fought the forces of terror on that snowy Afghan ridge. Each of them has entered the eternal chronicle of American valor and American bravery. Britt, we salute you. We thank you. We thank God for making you a United States SEAL. We love our Navy SEALs. They're very special, very incredible people. It's now my tremendous privilege to present to you the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I'd like the military aide to come forward and please read the citation. Thank you. Military aide to come.
The President of the United States, in the name of the Congress, takes pleasure in presenting the Medal of Honor to Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator C. air, and land, Britt K. Slabinski, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following: for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, while assigned to a joint task force in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. In the early morning of March 4th, 2002, Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator Slabinski led a reconnaissance team to its assigned area atop a 10,000-foot snow-covered mountain. Their insertion helicopter was suddenly riddled with rocket-propelled grenades and small arms fire from previously undetected enemy positions. The crippled helicopter lurched violently and ejected one teammate onto the mountain before the pilots were forced to crash land in the valley far below. Senior Chief Slabinski boldly rallied his 5 remaining team members and marshaled supporting assets for an assault to rescue their stranded teammate. During reinsertion, the team came under fire from 3 directions, and one teammate started moving uphill toward an enemy strongpoint. Without regard for his own safety, Senior Chief Slabinski charged directly toward enemy fire to join his teammate. Together, they fearlessly assaulted and cleared the first bunker they encountered. The enemy then unleashed a hail of machine gun fire from a second hardened position only 20 meters away. Senior Chief Slabinski repeatedly exposed himself to deadly fire to personally engage the second enemy bunker and orient his team's fires in a furious, close-quarters firefight. Proximity made air support impossible, and after several teammates became casualties, the situation became untenable. Senior Chief Slabinski maneuvered his team to a more defensible position, directed airstrikes in very close proximity to his team's position, and requested reinforcement. As daylight approached, accurate enemy mortar fire forced the team further down the sheer mountainside. Senior Chief Slabinski carried a seriously wounded teammate through deep snow and led a difficult trek across precipitous terrain while calling in fire on the enemy, which was engaging the team from the surrounding ridges. Throughout the next 14 hours, Senior Chief Slabinski stabilized casualties and continued the fight against the enemy until the hill was secured and his team was extracted. By his undaunted courage, bold initiative, leadership, and devotion to duty, Senior Chief Slabinski reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service.
And as we close today, let us close with one final prayer. Let us pray. Almighty God, those of us who have had the privilege to witness this very special ceremony are reminded once again that we serve among the greatest of warriors, among the greatest of navies, within the greatest of nations, only because of the brave few who continue to raise their hand in the protection of this great nation and those in it from those who would wish us harm. Men such as our very own Master Chief Britt Slabinski, who personifies that most cherished of virtues that we all strive for, which is courage. Courage for when our moment comes and we look into the abyss, and we promise ourselves and others on our honor to do our best, to do our duty, for God and for our country, and in so doing forge an unbreakable bond in the heat of battle in the furnace of affliction, which strengthens, molds, and galvanizes that bond only to come forth as pure gold and in this case, gold in the form of a naval trident. And as we close this ceremony today, may Master Chief Siblinski take with him the certainty of knowing that his days spent in service to this nation in the pursuit of freedom for all were of value beyond measure, as well as those virtues and values which delivered him to this very moment. May it never be far from our thoughts the price that he and many others have paid in the pursuit of that freedom. And may that inspiration be breathed into each one of us and live on in the generations to follow, especially to our brother and sister warriors, teammates, friends, and family of Naval Special Warfare, as we collectively wish our teammate and his family Godspeed. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by saying that based on the recent statement of North Korea, I have decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore on June 12th. While many things can happen and a great opportunity lies ahead potentially, I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed a setback for the world. I've spoken to General Mattis and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and our military, which is by far the most powerful anywhere in the world and has been greatly enhanced recently, as you all know, is ready if necessary. Likewise, I have spoken to South Korea and Japan, and they are not only ready should foolish or reckless acts be taken by North Korea, but they are willing to shoulder much of the cost of any
I'm here to take you to the police.
Any of the costs associated by the United States in operations.
Sure, if you just come with me first.
Unfortunate situation is forced upon us. Hopefully positive things will be taking place with respect to the future of North Korea. But if they don't, we are more ready than we have ever been before. North Korea has the opportunity to end decades of poverty and oppression by following the path of demilitarization and joining the community of nations. And I hope that Kim Jong-un will ultimately do what is right, not only for himself, but perhaps most importantly, what's right for his people, who are suffering greatly and needlessly. All of the Korean people, North and South, deserve to be able to live together in harmony, prosperity, and peace. That bright and beautiful future can only happen when the threat of nuclear weapons is removed. No way it can happen otherwise. If and when Kim Jong-un chooses to engage in constructive dialogue and actions, I am waiting. In the meantime, our very strong sanctions, by far the strongest sanctions ever imposed, and maximum pressure campaign will continue as it has been continuing. But no matter what happens, and what we do, we will never ever compromise the safety and security of the United States of America. I want to make that statement. Feel very, very strongly about it. Our military, as you know, has been greatly enhanced. Will soon be at a level that it's never been before. Our approval of $700 billion this year and $716 billion next year, largely due to the help of a lot of the people with me today and standing right here. We appreciate it. We had to do that for our military, and we've done it. And hopefully everything's going to work out well with North Korea. And A lot of things can happen, including the fact that perhaps, good wait, it's possible that the existing summit could take place or a summit at some later date. Nobody should be anxious. We have to get it right. Okay, with that being said, we have something else, which I have to tell you, all of you, Chairman, Mike, and everybody, it was a big deal until this came up. I don't know, where's Mike Crapo? Where are you? Mike, congratulations, you did a great job, but it doesn't seem so important now. I don't know. But it is important. It's incredible. And it's incredible that you've done it, and you've done it in a very bipartisan way. It's very nice. Thank you.
I have to find a way into that carriage.
But a very bipartisan way, Mike, and I want to congratulate you and everyone else. I'm going to read a few names because these people worked hard. This is all about the Dodd-Frank disaster. And they fixed it, or at least have gone a long way toward fixing it. Mike Crapo, thank you very much. Steve Daines, thank you, Steve. Incredible job. John Kennedy, thank you very much, John. Heidi Heitkamp. Heidi, thank you very much. Appreciate it. David Perdue. Where's David? Jim Risch. Learned all about it. I think I have to use him. Jim Scott. Also representatives.
It didn't have to come to this.
That's like the prime location until about 10 minutes ago, right? I think Mia now has the prime location. I know. It's all about location, isn't it? Jim Banks, Andy Barr, Kevin Kramer, Sean Duffy, Tom Emmer, French Hill, Bill Heisinger, David Kustoff, Patrick McHenry. I always say Patrick McHenry. Where's that? The greatest name in politics.
Someone come quick!
Every time I say Patrick McHenry, who's, by the way, does a great job.
No one steals while I'm
More
around.
important than the name. I think you have the greatest name in politics. If I had that name, I would have been president 10 years sooner. Telling you. It's a great name. Thanks, Patrick. Mia Love. Thank you, Mia. Blaine Lutkenmeyer. Keith Roth.
It's over here!
Where's Keith?
Help! There's been a murder!
Claudia Tenney and Ann Wagner. These are people that have worked so hard.
What's the meaning
of this?
About this? Who the devil are you?
So long.
Prime Minister,
and
I'm
so
your new bodyguard.
I want to thank all of them. I
Jacob
also want to
Fry.
thank
I wasn't informed of any new
Vice President
bodyguard.
Pence, who's been
Who's your commanding
working with
officer?
me
Let the
on
boy
our
speak, Dizzy.
previous discussion. Long
Madam,
and hard.
apologies.
Secretary
We've
Steve
learned of a
Mnuchin,
threat on your life.
Secretary Ross,
And the Met thought
Secretary
it best to
Carson,
move quickly.
and Administrator
sort of threat?
Linda McMahon, who's doing a fantastic
That sort.
job.
If you excuse me a moment.
Small business groups. He is going all over the country talking to people. And Linda, I just thank you also to the many great members of Congress and for the people that worked so long and so hard. Today I'm proud to keep yet another promise. There are a lot of promises. In fact, I think we probably, in terms of campaign promises, we promised, but we actually improved more than I promised. If you really look at it. A commentator actually said, this was a commentator obviously, that like we said we were going to do this and we've done more, and we have. If you look at regulation, if you look at all of the things we've done. But we've kept yet another promise as I signed the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. Big deal. This is truly a great day for America. A great day for American workers and small businesses all throughout the nation. The legislation signed today rolls back crippling Dodd-Frank regulations that are crushing community banks and credit unions nationwide. They were in such trouble. One size fits all. Those rules just don't work. And community banks and credit unions should be regulated the same way, and we have to really look at this. They should be regulated the same way with proviso for safety, as in the past when they were vibrant and strong, but they shouldn't be regulated the same way as the large, complex financial institutions. And that's what happened when they were being put out of business. And they weren't lending. Since its passage in 2010, Dodd-Frank has dealt a huge blow to community banking. As a candidate, I pledged that we would rescue these community banks from Dodd-Frank, the disaster of Dodd-Frank. And now we are keeping people with me are keeping that. Dodd-Frank's complex and costly regulations gave large banks an unfair competitive advantage at the expense of neighborhood banks all over the country. You're embarrassing yourself! Dodd-Frank's passage just 8 years ago, 20% of small banks have been put out of business. While banks that were considered too big to fail, I've heard that many times, too big to fail, had the resources to comply with Dodd-Frank's brutal maze of costly regulations. And maybe we're going to have to start looking at that
What's
also
all
for the
this?
larger
Not so
institutions,
fast, Your Excellency.
because they also are put at a disadvantage in terms of loaning money to people wanting to open up businesses. So perhaps we'll be taking a look at that. Many small banks were forced to shut down. Regulations also made it nearly impossible for new banks to replace the ones that went out of business. It made it totally impossible to open up new. Almost nobody opened up. In the past, scores of new banks formed every single year. In recent years, that number has plummeted almost zero. Community banks are vital for local lending and have a direct stake in the success of the neighborhoods in their states. Local businesses,
Let's go.
few other resources, and few other ways of getting credit. And for many Americans, these small banks are the only financial institutions in their entire community. They make their communities work. Essentially, when these community banks close their doors, they face a business. Everyday Americans access to capital that they desperately need. By liberating small banks from excessive bureaucracy, and that's what it was, bureaucracy. We are unleashing the economic potential of our community. This legislation also strengthens protections against identity theft, big problem nowadays, bigger than anyone understands. Expands crucial financial access to low-income and minority communities, and ensures that educational and job training opportunities are available to more families in need. There's a great opportunity. So many people up here are working very, very hard on creating those opportunities for people. These reforms are critical to helping all Americans thrive financially. Today's legislation is It's never been a comeback. Fake news. But that's okay.
Everyone all right?
Republicans in Congress passed the biggest tax cut and reform in the history of our country.
It was
We
Gladstone.
passed
I bet
and
my life
signed
on
a
it.
record
This is perfectly
number
in
of
keeping
bills
with this
terminating
distinct lack of
job-killing
character.
regulations in the
Show
history of our
yourself,
country.
Gladstone!
No president.
Show yourself, you
4
feckless
years,
much-like!
8 years,
And she's
16
hardly
years
going to
in
be
one
in the
case
band with a puncture
has
or
never
disease.
passed for regulation cuts. And these were necessary because we're legally necessary for regulation. Regulation is fine, but it's got to be reasonable. And that's what we've done. Unemployment has reached its lowest level in nearly 2 decades. African American unemployment has reached its lowest level in history. And the same thing for Hispanic.
Damn Gladstone!
Lowest
That
level
bloody man!
in
He
history.
will pay for this!
Women Lowest
Thank you.
level of unemployment in 19 years.
What do you intend to do
Small
about
business
Gladstone, young
optimism
man?
I assure
has
you,
never,
Madam,
ever
Gladstone
been
is
higher,
innocent in this.
according to
But he tried to kill my
polls and
husband.
charts.
Well, we'll look into
And we're
Gladstone.
restoring our forgotten
Perhaps you can help me
communities
with
by
another
fighting to
inquiry,
reclaim
madam.
the stolen
A gentleman with
manufacturing
ties to
jobs. You see
Parliament,
that happening
older,
right
wears
now.
cavalry
You see what's
uniforms and
going
has a
on with
large
cars,
moustache.
Where Secretary
You seem like
Ross
a
and
rough
I,
and ready sort of fellow, Mr. Fry.
as you know,
Well,
Secretary Mnuchin,
yes, I am actually.
And are you
Lighthizer,
familiar with the
and the whole group,
poorer districts
we're
of
all
our
working
city?
together.
Roughly.
Peter,
Wonderful.
we have a big group
As it
working
happens,
together.
I've
Did you
been
see
eager to
there was
tour
an
the
article today,
Devil's
but
Acre.
it's going to be more than an article.
If you were to
Cars
escort me,
cars
I'd be
pouring
happy
into
to
our
assist
country
you in your inquiry.
and hurting
That
our
strikes me as a
jobs,
dangerous
and they're
idea.
closing.
Then
They're
it's
moving
settled.
back. As you know,
Come
Chrysler's
back
moving
here
back
to
to
Downing
Michigan.
Street tomorrow
Big
night,
plant.
8 o'clock
Many car
sharp.
companies are coming into our country.
Good day, Mr. Fry.
Big difference.
Good day,
If you
Mr.
take
Fry.
a look at what we're doing on trade, China going to be much different. A lot of reporting doesn't have it right because we're not talking about the deal we're trying to make. We don't want to do that. But we're working very well and very hard with China, as you know, and I don't blame China for this. China has been taking advantage of the United States economically and in other ways for many, many decades. For many decades. And it was like missing in action, our representatives. They were missing in action. They wouldn't do anything. We had a trade deficit last year with China of at least $375 billion, and I believe the number was probably over $500 billion. And we had massive theft of intellectual property to the tune of perhaps, hard to value, $300 billion a year. And that's all ending. That's all ending. And our relationship with China is a very good one. And I told President Xi, I don't blame China. I blame the United States for allowing this to happen. Because people in my position and people in these positions should have never, ever allowed that to happen. But we're changing it. This is an incredible time for America. Amazing progress is happening for our country every single day. And I again want to thank the members of Congress who helped pass so many vital legislative acts. We have another one that passed yesterday called Right to Try. Nobody knows what that means. That's a patient who's terminally ill, ends up leaving the country to find help. They wanted hope. And we have drugs that are in the pipeline for anywhere from 10 to 15 years. And they may be very good, but you're not allowed to use them. These people are terminal. They're terminally ill. They're going to die. And we had no access. They had no access at all to getting into that pipeline, to getting something that may or may not work. We have some incredible, at the FDA, we have some incredible drugs under research. So, Right to Try, which amazingly was something that everyone said could not be passed. Right to Try passed. We'll be signing it probably sometime next week. And this gives people hope. We can go, they'll sign a waiver, and they'll be able to use what they need. And in many cases, they'll be helped. But they won't have to fly to Africa. They won't have to fly to South America. They won't have to fly to Europe or wherever, just seeking help. Rich people, poor people, they're seeking help. They had no access. Now they have the right to try, the right of hope. And I know many of the folks standing with me agreed with me and approved it. It's such a wonderful bill, and it's so incredible that it was not possible to get it passed, but we got it passed.
Madam?
And we
Mr.
had
Fry.
some tremendous help from
Ready
some
to take the air?
tremendously talented
Devil's Acre should
senators
just be
and
coming alive.
Congress people.
I'm afraid
So I wanna thank
must
all the people up
cancel
here
our
today.
engagement.
What we're doing today with
The
respect
law
to Dodd-Frank is
cruel
truly
with
important
scandal
legislation.
hunting journalists.
And I have to say,
and I
for
simply
a
cannot be
Congress
seen
that
in the
they
company
say,
of
you know,
someone
won't
so.
be doing
I'll
much
see them
because
off.
we have an
You
election
follow
coming
along
up.
when it's
I
clear.
think we're doing an
Yes,
awful
yes.
lot when you think about
Be
it.
gentle.
I think we're doing an
won't
awful
you?
lot. I think we're doing more
The
than
press are notorious
any Congress in a
touchy
long
about
time. So
any violence to their person.
thank you. So I'll be signing now a
I'll
very, very
barely ruffle a
important
hair
bill
on
from
their
the standpoint
heads.
of people and jobs and
Desmond.
loans and getting out there and building a business. And it's a tremendous honor to be with all of you folks today, and thank you for the great job. Thank you for this incredible amount of work. I know how hard this one was. The Dodd-Frank was something that they said could not be touched. And honestly, a lot of great Democrats knew that it had to be done, and they joined us in the effort. And there is something so nice about bipartisan. And we're going to have to try more of it, okay? Let's do more of it, all right? Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Great. Good. I'm good. No nap, big TV show. 12-hour drama.
Well, we'll see what happens. I hope that we'll continue on.
Get one of the Sharpies.
We are in a very strong position. I think they want to do what's right. I really think that they want to do it. It was only recently that this has been taking place, and I think I understand why it's been taking place. But they want to do what's right. I really believe Kim Jong-un wants to do what's right. So hopefully things will work out. Thank you all very much. We have a wonderful dialogue. We have a wonderful, there's been a very good working relationship. It started with the hostages coming back home. The hostages came home. We didn't have to pay. We wouldn't have paid. But they came back home. They're now safely ensconced in their houses. Doing fine, and they're very happy, thrilled, and they never thought it was going to happen. So the dialogue was good until recently, and I think I understand why that happened. And I won't say that. Someday I'll give it to you. You can write about it in a book. But I really believe we have a great opportunity. We'll see whether or not that opportunity is seized by North Korea. If it is, great for them and great for the world. If it isn't, it'll be just fine. Thank you all very much.
Steady on.
Great to be here. Oh, do I know this location well. Beautiful Bethpage State Park. Spent a lot of hours there. Great place. Thank you very much and good afternoon. We're here today to discuss the menace of MS-13. It's a menace. A ruthless gang that has violated our borders and transformed once peaceful neighborhoods into blood-stained killing fields. The horrible people, by the way. Thank you very much to Secretary Nielsen, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Right, thank you. Acting ICE Director Tom Homan, who is going to be, I hope you're going to be with us for a long time. I'm hearing he's going to go into a little bit of an easier job, but you won't be happy. You won't be happy. What a job you've done. Thank you very much, Tom. And Acting Assistant Attorney General John Cronin. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. And we also have a couple of folks with us today. Laura Curran, Nassau County Executive, wherever Laura may be. Hi, Laura. How are you, Laura? Thank you very much. I want to thank a very good friend of mine for a long time that this area does very well, the great Peter King. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Doing a good job. And he's fully got my endorsement, even though I assume he has no opponents. I don't know if he has any opponent. Nobody would be that crazy to run against Peter. Congressman Lee Zeldin. Thank you. Thank you, Lee. Great job you're doing. Thank you for all your help. And Congressman Daniel Donovan, really known as Dan, right? Dan Donovan, and a friend, for their great leadership in combating MS-13. Also, Erin King, you know who I'm talking about, Sweetie. Where's Erin? Where are you? Hello, Erin. How are you? A little bit of a relationship. Rosemary. Hi, Rosemary. That's my wife. I know that's your wife. Nice to see you. Thanks, Rosemary. Thanks for being here. Thank you very much, Erin. It's a great honor to have you. We're also grateful to be joined by Commissioner Jerry Hart of Suffolk County and Commissioner Patrick Ryder. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Shall we go? And they know this threat probably as well as anybody.
I'm so sorry.
We're especially moved today to be joined by families who have suffered unthinkable heartbreak at the hands of the MS-13 gangs. I'm truly honored to be joined again by the courageous families who were my guests at the State of the Union. It was a special evening. Elizabeth Alvarado, Robert Mickens, Evelyn Rodriguez, and Freddie Cuevas. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Their beautiful daughters, Kayla and Nisa, were murdered by MS-13 gang members, many of whom exploited glaring loopholes, and we have the biggest loopholes of any country anywhere in the world. We have the worst immigration laws of any country anywhere in the world. But they exploited the loopholes in our laws to enter the country as unaccompanied alien minors. They look so innocent. They're not innocent.
Yes, they
We are praying for these families with us today, and we pledge to honor the memory of those you lost with action and resolve, and I'll just add another word, with great success. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you so much.
Best not to ask.
Really appreciate it. And they will not have passed in vain, that I can tell you. MS-13 lives by the motto, kill, rape, and control. That's actually their motto. Kill, rape, and control. Last month, MS-13 reportedly called for its members here on Long Island, where I essentially grew up. You know Jamaica, right? I always said Long Island's very close. To call and to see what happened is just incredible. But they killed a cop for the sake of making a statement. They wanted to make a statement. So they killed a cop, policeman. Here in Nassau County, MS-13 gang members were charged with killing and hacking up a teenager. And police officers just told me 4 other young men were brutally murdered recently by MS-13 in Suffolk County. In Maryland, MS-13 gang members are accused of stabbing a man 100 times, decapitating him, and ripping out his heart.
Good boy, Desmond. Hand over
Police officers also believe the MS-13 members beat a sex-trafficked 15-year-old girl with a bat 28 times,
back to your mistress,
totally
whom I've just left entirely unattended
a
in one of
beautiful
London's
young
most
woman.
dangerous pubs.
In Texas, 2 MS-13 gang members were charged after kidnapping, drugging, and raping a 14-year-old girl. They then murdered her and somebody else. Crippling loopholes in our laws have enabled MS-13 gang members and other criminals to infiltrate our communities. And Democrats in Congress refuse to close these loopholes,
I'm sorry.
including the disgraceful practice known as catch and release. That's you catch them,
I think we better get you home.
you write up a little piece of paper that's meaningless, and then you release them. And they go all throughout the country, and they're supposed to come back for trials. They never come back, or very rarely. It's the rare person that comes back. Democrats have to abandon their resistance to border security so that we can support law enforcement and save innocent lives.
Let's not do something
I
we'll
noticed
regret.
recently where Democrats, Nancy Pelosi as an example, are trying to defend MS-13 gang members. I called them animals the other day, and I was met with rebuke. They said, they're people. They're not people. These are animals. And we have to be very, very... So I'd now like to turn this over to a man, really, he has been a great friend of mine, a tremendous supporter, and I've always been a supporter of his, Peter King. He does an incredible job, and nobody knows this situation and this horror show and these laws, how bad they are. Worst in the world, better than Peter King. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. And let me say what...
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, so an honor to have you back here in Long Island. You say you were a neighbor in Suffolk County last year, Nassau County this year. And you, more than anyone in the country, is highlighting the evil of MS-13. I congratulate you. I thank you for leading this effort. They are horrible, vicious, rotten murderers. And you're leading the charge. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for assembling all this here today. And thank you for mobilizing all the efforts of the federal government behind this. So thank you very much. Also, on a somewhat jocular note, let me tell Laura Curran, I want to thank her for giving visas to Donovan and Zeldin, who left them to Nassau County. I promise you I'll get them out of here as soon as I can, okay? So, okay. No, we're very serious. This is a very serious issue. I have these family members here. I've worked with them. I know what they've gone through. And for anyone who wants to minimize the danger of MS-13, just ask Commissioner Hart, Commissioner Ryder. They know firsthand exactly what this is all about. Let me also commend ICE for the great job that they do. Tom is here, and he's done excellent work in Suffolk County and in Nassau County, working with Nassau and Suffolk County Police. So, Mr. President, you have experts here that can talk. I just want to, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the good work. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for a splendid...
I do want to say, and I have to pay great tribute to ICE, Border Patrol, but ICE came in, and they are doing a job. We are taking them out by the thousands. Now, if we had laws that were proper, they wouldn't be coming back to the extent. But they've taken them out by the thousands, and it's way down, but it's still far too much, and it's unacceptable. So I thought maybe what we'll do is we'll go around the table, say a few words. If you might, we'll start right here. You have done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it. Let's go. Why don't we start? Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the very day that Attorney General Jeff Sessions was sworn in, you signed an executive order with a very clear directive: reduce crime in America. And it is my honor to support carrying out your mandate by helping to bring MS-13 to justice and by working to dismantle this gang that's terrorizing our communities. I know people in this room are very familiar with the horrifying stats, but MS-13 is one of the most violent and formidable threats that our country faces today. MS-13 leaders may operate out of prisons in El Salvador, but the gang is alive and well in our streets. It is estimated there are 10,000 MS-13 members in the United States. 2,000 are estimated to be right here in Long Island. And their ranks are continually being refilled with new emissaries from El Salvador. MS-13 is infiltrating our high schools, our middle schools, even our elementary schools. The gang's brutality, as you alluded to, Mr. President, just cannot be captured by words. You mentioned their motto: kill, rape, control. They live by that motto. They kill, murdering their victims, murdering them with machetes, chains, knives, bats, firearms. They rape, gang raping young girls, selling them for sex. They control, killing not just rival gang members, but also fellow MS-13 members who are suspected of being cooperators with law enforcement or violated gang rules. For example, in March, an MS-13 member named Elmer Lopez pled guilty to murdering a fellow gang member who is suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. Lopez and his cohorts brought their victim to a secluded, wooded area in Brentwood, maybe about 15 miles from here, where they took turns slashing and stabbing him to death. Mr. President, the victim's skeletal remains were discovered more than 4 months later. A few months ago, MS-13 member Raul Landaverde Herran, who also is facing federal charges for allegedly illegally re-entering the company after he was deported. Landaverde Herran was convicted of murdering someone who had fled El Salvador for Maryland to avoid a kill order from MS-13. Landaverde Haran and his fellow thugs lured that victim to the woods, shot him in the head, and stabbed him in the face and neck. For his role in the murder, Landaverde Haran received a promotion from MS-13. Well, Mr. President, thanks to our criminal justice system, he will also be receiving a mandatory life sentence.
Great.
What's this nonsense about needing a password to see Lord Cardigan today?
Relax. And to give one other example, Mr. President, last November, Yerman Hernandez Ordonez, a Honduran national who was illegally in the United States, was sentenced for his role of an MS-13 murder in Virginia. Hernandez Ordonez oversaw 2 young MS-13 recruits. They were tasked with murdering a rival gang member to gain admission into MS-13. After 2 failed attempts to shoot the victim almost managed to flee. But Hernandez Ordonez made sure he didn't get away. He chased him down, caught him, and brought him back. The 2 recruits then shot their victim in the head and were initiated into MS-13 later that same day. Mr. President, these and the disgraceful examples that you mentioned in your opening remarks are just a small sample of the unspeakable violence of MS-13. But we are hitting MS-13 hard with targeted prosecutions across the country, including right here in Long Island. We are surging federal prosecutors, surging them to the border to prosecute immigration offenses, surging them to U.S. Attorney's Office around the country to prosecute violent crimes. We're working with our partners in Central America, work that has resulted in thousands of arrests of MS-13 members. We want these savages incapacitated before they can try to cross over our borders. We cannot and we will not permit our country to be a playground for MS-13 to pursue its murderous mission. Dismantling violent gangs is the top priority of this Department of Justice under Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And it will remain such as we continue to use all law enforcement tools at our disposal to rid our streets of the scourge of MS-13. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. Great job.
First of all, I want to thank you for your leadership on this issue. I want to thank the Secretary. I couldn't ask for 2 better bosses that take border security and public safety more seriously than you all. I also want to give a shout out to law enforcement officers in this room, the ones that carry a badge of gun every day, put their lives on the line for the community. We got a president, unprecedented support for law enforcement. And I thank you guys. A 33-year veteran law enforcement. You're doing a tremendous job. You got the backs of law enforcement. You got their 6. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, I'm much older and blinder than John, so I got to wear my glasses because there are some important numbers I want to read to back you up on the statements you made coming here, because a lot of times you're questioned about it. So I want to read some numbers. I want to thank Rod and John for partnership. They are stepping up. We are prosecuting more MS-13 members and gang members in the history of ICE. ICE is working hard to ensure the United States does not become a safe haven for these criminals. HSI, our criminal investigators in HSI, continue to attack the efforts of MS-13 here domestically and abroad, which I'll speak to in a minute.
I've been exploring the wireless world of Sprint, and I've learned Sprint is building America's mobile 5G network. I've also discovered the human world through Digits.
It felt like I was living in the future.
An exciting program now available free from CuriosityStream and Sprint. Digits and other top science and tech programs are now playing free in the Sprint Theater on CuriosityStream. Discover these great shows and more at curiositystream.com/sprint. Sprint, a brighter future for all.
Just got done spraying it down with some F11. F11 is no joke.